what is maybe a moment, a play,
Mhm.
a game, whatever it is, like that you will always remember Tom Brady?
Well, that's a tough one.
Besides the tuck rule. Besides the
Right,
tuck
right. Well,
rule.
we'll look past the tuck rule because in hindsight, like, yes, it is like a infamous play, but it's oddly not what defines Tom Brady. He just so happened to be involved in it, but he's had so many more impactful plays, throws, whatever that kind of overshadow that. It's just one of those things that's always looked at as like, a rule that went into his favor that shouldn't have. But again, that shouldn't erase his entirety of the greatness of him. But I think a moment or a game I would say that encompassed Tom Brady for me was the Super Bowl where he came back and beat the Atlanta Falcons when they were down by 25 at halftime or in the third quarter or whatever. And he led the comeback. And the argument was that the New England Patriots didn't have really any firepower, like, out of Edelman and Gronk, who was injured, I think, majority of the season. They really didn't have anybody in terms of like a weapon. And Tom Brady, it seemed like all by himself, beat the Falcons. And this was the same Falcons team that was coached by Dan Quinn, who's defensive coordinator right now for the Cowboys. Offensive coordinator for that team was also Kyle Shanahan, who has also lost a ton of leads in his time as a head coach in various playoff games. But I think for me in that, seeing that game, it just kind of blew me away by how great Tom Brady was. Like, I remember when they signed Randy Moss and they were just a juggernaut on offense, but I didn't want to say I ignored it, but he had a ton of weapons. So I think any quarterback would have been successful in that situation just because there's a lot of weapons. But I don't think I grasped the true greatness of Tom Brady until after that Super Bowl win, because that was like eye opening. Like, holy cow, this dude is as great as he's advertised, if not greater than what we thought. And I'll even bring up a phrase that your guy, Colin Cowherd, has said on his show a bunch of times is, instead of complaining about greatness, you need to appreciate it because it's not going to last forever. And one day when it's gone, you're going to wish you appreciated it, such as, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. Coming up soon, it'll be LeBron James. Believe it or not, we're probably closer to LeBron James's end than we are him keeping going. That's kind of the
Yeah.
scarier thing to even think about in terms of like our favorite athletes. But Colin Cowherd made it very clear we need to appreciate greatness. And I don't think I got to that point until that game specifically is when I had appreciation, saw that game, and just like, wow, that's something that I'll always remember. And my son got to witness that too. So he saw that and was like, wow, is this dude for real? Yes, he's that dude,
Yeah. The first memory I have, believe it or not, I'm going to age myself a little bit, but I remember watching, I believe it was a Monday night game, with where Drew Bledsoe got injured. Actually, it was Sunday night. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
It was a Sunday night game where Drew Bledsoe was the quarterback. He goes, I remember the run, and he gets knocked out of bounds, and he just doesn't get up.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid Tom Brady comes in, and I remember they were like, "Oh, this kid, he was out of Michigan. He's a good quarterback. They like him in practice. Blah blah blah." And I thought they were just kind of like, pumping him up a little bit,
Uh-huh.
to appease Patriot fans, like not to panic because they just spent a huge amount of money on Drew Bledsoe.
Right.
And this kid Tom Brady comes in, and I mean, he wasn't spectacular, but that's the first memory I have of Tom Brady. Just like
Right.
most people, um, was the first time he came into the NFL and played,
Yeah.
and um, I always remember that. And then the next memory I have is the Super Bowl against the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Just how I remember, I was just like, oh, the Rams are going to mop the floor with the
Yeah.
Patriots, and Tom basically did what he needed to do, and that defense was nasty. But yeah, I mean, it's incredible to think that how long ago that was, what, 2001, that Tom Brady came in and took over the job, and then it was just like crazy
Yeah.
that that Tom Brady was going to start the Super Bowl over Drew Bledsoe.
Right.
And Drew Bledsoe was healthy. He had just basically won the AFC championship for them. And they're like, oh, we're going to stick with Tom. And everyone was like, this is nuts. But
Right.
now you look back on it, hindsight is always 2020.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that was the best move ever. Tom
Right.
Brady's the greatest of all time. Drew Bledsoe was great, but he wasn't
Well,
as,
yeah,
good.
people will probably say, oh, look at Bill Belichick being the greatest coach, already seeing greatness in Tom Brady, which you're like, okay, sure. But I mean, it took a lot of moxie from, Tom Brady to even make those throws to get him ahead in the game. And I think Kurt Warner and the Rams made a small run towards the end, but Patriots still came out on top, as history says. But yeah, dude, it was crazy those first few years. Cause I don't know about you, but for me, like when Tom Brady started in the Super Bowl the year following that, and I think the year they beat the Panthers, I don't even think I was still a true Tom Brady like believer. I still thought like, he's a decent quarterback. He's, Patriots for some reason are really good. You can't explain it. And I don't think like Tom Brady's first 10 years, I don't think he was as good of a quarterback then as he was these past 10 years, where these past 10 years, it just seemed like he was on another planet from everybody else, if that makes any sense. So it's just very crazy to see like how he excelled, stayed on top, and in theory left on top because he almost came back again, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before that against the Rams. And that was another bonkers thing. At age 44, he again brought his team back from nothing. And, just Matthew Stafford and the Rams made better plays down the end. But, crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and there's still a possibility he could win MVP this year. I mean, a lot of people will probably think Aaron Rodgers, but there is a chance that Tom Brady could win it. And especially with him retiring, I wouldn't be surprised if some extra votes come Tom Brady's way. So
yeah,
we'll see.
For sure.
But there still is that chance, which would be if you can't win a Super Bowl, at least win an MVP on your way out. I mean,
oh yeah, go out on top.
Yeah, for real.